volume. There we go. Flip over to the new stream scan. What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for stopping by tonight. We're live. I don't know why I didn't drink this before flipping on the little live thing, but this is my Game of Thrones cup that I will be frequenting tonight. But thank you guys for stopping by. We're going to be editing some photos. I got to get closer to this new mic. Hopefully this sounds okay, and I can't get too far away. So we are going to be editing some photos, some of my old photos that I never got to, as well as a couple photos that were submitted by the viewers. I'm so pumped when you guys send me your photos. It gets me super excited, and you know it's humbling also because you're trusting me with your personal. It's art, you know. It's your personal work. It's your photo, and you're allowing me to play around with it, and hopefully it turns out better. If not, I'm sorry, but that's the whole idea behind this stream. This is a learning experience for myself. This is hopefully a learning experience for you as well, but this is a journey, and that you guys are coming on that with me, and we are learning new skills and new techniques. And don't ever feel like you can't chime in and share your thoughts, or maybe give me a different idea or an option or a way to go with it. In fact, last week we edited, is it this one? We edited this photo. This was also submitted by a viewer, and all during the edit, people were chiming in with different things that they saw or they thought, and it actually turned out way better. I don't think I would have gone completely that direction had they not said something. So I'm really excited that they did that. Stream Elements bot is running, and okay, that's good. And let's get back over to the photos that we're going to do tonight. All right, so first and foremost, especially because this photo in particular was taken in the Bahamas, and in light of recent events, you know, it's such a gorgeous country, beautiful country. We go there so much for diving and photography and spearfishing and just vacation, and it's just tragic. And I hope that if you guys have the opportunity to help out, do so, whether that's donating goods or money, because we know that they need it. And for us to be able to go back here and take advantage of this beautiful place and take photos and do the things that we love to do, they need our support, guys, so go check that out. But let's get right into it. So I don't know which photo I want to start with here. I brought down a few, and two of them are actually submitted by, I didn't look up his name, one of the viewers here. Let me just pull up his Instagram really quick. In Grant, Ireland, he submitted, I think it's, yeah. Grant sent me two photos, and these are actually pretty good photos right out the camera. This one is really cool. I like the 50-50 action. This is a permit right here, I believe. No, that must not be. I don't know this guy personally, but this is a really cool photo. And then he also sent in this one that has that gorgeous coral reef. Look at that. And 50-50 seems to be his style. So I'd love to edit this photo also. I'm going to give that just a minute to simmer there, because give him enough time to get in here. Hopefully he's viewing, and hopefully he can weigh in and give some thoughts along the way. So am I unmuted? Yes. All right. Let me know if the sound is okay. I got a new microphone that we're using tonight, and I spent like the last hour and a half fussing with it to try to get it to work. So hopefully it sounds all right, and I'm not too loud and not peaking. It looks okay over there. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. We're going to start. Let's start with this photo. So this is a cool story, I guess you will. I was diving. We are actually doing a beach dive, myself and my wife Amber, my good friend Kevin Mahaffey, and his girlfriend Megan. We did a beach dive down in Pembroke Pines, I believe it was, and we were actually going out looking for sea turtles, and we didn't find any sea turtles. The visibility wasn't the greatest. It was a little hazy, but this bird right here just dove into the water and was swimming all over the place, and he was like pulling little fish out from underneath ledges and like digging his beak underneath these little holes, and it was wild to watch, and he wasn't fazed by us at all. But I was able to snap up a couple photos of him here. So let's go ahead and edit this. You can see that the visibility was a little hazy. It's a little green. And the difference between editing blue underwater photos and green underwater photos, there's some unique differences there. So it's something that you really just have to tool with. But first and foremost, like we do in all of these photos, we're going to come down here to the lens correction. Go ahead and click both of those. And I was using the 12 to 24 mil here. We can go ahead and check the library and see what settings I had. Shooting at 1/640th of a second, f6.3 at 13 mil. I was probably trying to shoot at 12 and it just creeped a little bit on me. And ISO 320, so not too bad considering underwater bad viz. Where's my chat deck? There it is. Sounds good. Hey, thanks. 8 o'clock. I'm glad you're here because I wouldn't have heard it. You know, you would have heard it from me actually if that didn't happen. So, all right, let's go ahead and start with that. Let's crop this in. I don't know how I want to crop this. He looks pretty cool centered, but because there's a little bit of like light rays coming up here from the top left, I think that we can do a little creative crop, do like a rule of thirds action, stick him down in the bottom right-hand corner, and we're just going to leave it as shot. 2x3. There we go. I try not to crop this in too much because this was the Sony a7 III. It doesn't have quite as many megapixels as some of the other Sony cameras like the R3. So cropping in too much, you get a little lower resolution, not to mention we have a hazy photo to begin with. So this looks pretty cool. I don't think we have to straighten it out at all. There are some bubbles in here. Some of those I'll probably leave in here. And then maybe a few of those we'll pick out. So let's go ahead and hop into white balance. And in this case, normally we're definitely going to add magenta in the tint, but I might actually pull the temperature down. If I pull it up, it's going to, yeah, I think, let's reset this. I'm going to pull the tint up, maybe 30 or 35. Going to pull the temperature down. Let's call it 5,000. All right, and just by going ahead and hitting the backslash key, we can see before and after. And this is just before and after the white balance. And that's looking pretty good. It's pretty well exposed up here. You can see it's all kind of in that middle. The highlights and the shadows are all kind of right there in the middle. So let's go ahead and come down here. We're not going to adjust the exposure just yet. We're going to pull the highlights down. Like I almost always do. Bring the shadows. I don't think I'm going to bring the shadows up too much because there's not a ton of shadow in here. If you actually hit shift and double click on shadow, it'll suggest. So that actually brings out a lot of detail in the foot. So yeah, actually I'm going to bring that up. Good call, Lightroom. Thanks for that. Same thing with the whites. If you want, you can just hit shift, double click on whites, and it'll give you what it thinks is best. In this case, I'm going to pull that back just a little bit. And then the blacks, I'm a sucker for crashing the blacks, but let's see what Lightroom suggests. That's actually probably more than what I would do. Let's go like negative 35 here. And now with the adjustments to the tone and the white balance before, after, I'm liking where we're going here. I want to just go down to the tone curve really quick and add some contrast in here by just pulling the shadows down a little bit, lifting up the highlights. Maybe bringing the mid-tones down just a bit too. Let's see how that affected the photo. That's pretty good. I think we need to desaturate it a little bit. It added saturation. When you add contrast, that happens. So we're going to bring the saturation slider down. Let's go negative 10 here. Maybe bring the vibrance up just to counteract that a little bit. And now before, after. Yo, hey, what's up, AJ? Thanks for stopping by, man. I thought you were going to send me Oh, you did send me a photo. Oh my God. And I told you last week that I would edit that. All right, let's see how we get through these photos that, good, because there's photos in here that I didn't really want to edit that were my photos. So if I have the time, I'll pull that up. If not, I'll definitely do it next week. But I'm going to try to pull that up. Hey, Stuart, thanks for stopping by. Hey, did you do your freediving course? I thought that was like this week or last weekend, or did it get canceled because of the weather? I know that you're just getting into that. So let's go ahead, leave the texture where it's at. Clarity, I'm going to, might increase that a little bit, dehaze this because of the bad viz, just a little. This weekend coming up. Awesome. Well, hopefully you have some better weather than we had last weekend. That's way too much. Let's bring that up like -10. You're going to really like it, man. I just know your personality. You're going to enjoy it a lot. And especially with, you getting into photography and everything, it meshes well. So I can see it's getting a little pixelated just because of all the sediment in the water. So let's go ahead and come down here before we get into the HSLs here and just adjust this masking. We're going to lift the sharpening up just a little bit more, maybe like 45, but we're going to mask this off. So I'm going to hold the Alt key, slide the masking over so that white is the area that we're going to sharpen. My wife and me are going. I have a dive partner. Awesome, man. No, he's actually doing his level 1 up in Pensacola or that region in the Panhandle. But yeah, you definitely want to have a dive buddy, man. It's important. Very cool. All right, I'm going to lift this luminance slider up a little bit to get some of that grain down. But I'm going to keep some of that detail. Color noise reduction is already there. That looks better. Let's go ahead and check the detail differences. You might not be able to see this if you're watching on a cell phone, but on my screen I can see, especially when I zoom in here, little variations. I think specifically, or more so rather, in the color noise reduction. Yes, level 1, doing it at Benthic Ocean Sports in Destin. Awesome, man. I think it's really cool that you heeded the correct advice and decided to do a level 1 course before just hopping in the water, because although the sport can be safe when done properly, it can also be very dangerous when done improperly. So it's good that you're doing the course. You're going to get more out of it that way, and you're just going to be a better diver. So that's cool. All right, let's go ahead and bring the aquas down a little bit in not only the luminance, but also in the saturation. And I'm going to use some gradient adjustments here as well. It's a little green. Let's add a little bit more magenta into the tint. That's good. And now let's get into the gradients. I'm actually first going to do one just down here on the bottom. Go ahead and turn this on so we can see what we're working with. Just like that. And I'm going to desaturate the bottom a little bit. That looks good. And now, since the light is coming from this top left corner, I'm going to go ahead and draw a graduated filter coming from the bottom right, and we're going to, I don't know why that's ticked, we're going to bring the exposure down a little bit, but we're going to pull this up so it's feathered a little bit more. And what I mean by that, if you guys have never used graduated filters before, when you first pull it out, here, I'm going to start it back. When you first pull this graduated filter out, you can see that right now it's a really harsh line. And in fact, if you look up here in the navigation window, you can see how, drastic that changes. The further you pull this line out, the softer that feather gets. So it's a more gradual, right? Graduated filter, a more gradual change. And you pull it out even further, same thing's going to happen. It's going to get more and more gradual. But if you flick on this little show selected mask area, you can see what we're adjusting. So the further you pull the whole thing over, it even gets softer. So I'm trying to add a very subtle effect here. And in this case, bringing it down about 3/4 of a step, but just the edge here, just that little feather. And you can see when I go ahead and turn this on and off, it doesn't make an enormous impact on the photo. In fact, I might angle this a little bit more from the bottom, pull this down a little bit further. It doesn't make an enormous impact, but it adds some contrast, it adds some depth. And if we add a little vignette around the whole thing, you're gonna see a little even more contrast, at least in terms of light. That's probably too much. Let's try like -10, feather that up to like 70. There we go. So this is before and after right now. I still don't like how grainy it is out here, so what I'm going to do is just go ahead to the adjustment brush. I don't want to affect so much the water up here because I want some detail in that, but I'm going to bring the textures down, which that's already done. I'm going to bring the textures down so that if we zoom in here, like down here, you can kind of see how it's grainy, and there's a lot of sediment in the water. I'm going to head and hit my right bracket key to make this bigger, or I can just use my scroll wheel. And if I just paint here, it's going to smooth that out. So now if I just turn this off, you'll be able to see before and after. Before and now after. And again, unless you're watching this on a big screen, you're not going to notice this. And it really probably won't make a huge difference in like an Instagram photo, but if you're going to blow this up and put it on a print, especially a big print, you're going to notice it a lot more. So let's go ahead and zoom out so I can do the rest of this. And I'm not going to have so much of a feather. Where am I? Here we go, feather. I'm going to bring this down because I don't want any of this effect to be applied to the bird, right? So I want to make sure that bird's safe. And even the bottom, I want to keep some detail in the bottom. So I'm just trying to do this on some of these negative space areas over here and over here. We can get up here in the top left a little bit. I do want to leave some detail up here, maybe just one pass, a light brush stroke, because my flow right now is 40, so it's not, it's kind of like your opacity. Your flow is sort of like your opacity. All right, so let's see before and after with that effect. And again, if you're looking at this with a big screen, you can definitely notice a difference in how smooth this all looks out here. And I think it looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and smack our radial filter around the subject. So this is just a circular filter. Right now we're editing everything within the circle, and you can see that by, I'm sorry, outside the circle. Wrong. If I invert this selection now, it's just editing the bird, and that's what we're wanting to do here. But I'm going to increase that feather that we went over before. I'm going to increase that so it's a really soft transition. And we're going to lift the exposure on the bird just a little bit. Let me check this off so that you can see the effect being applied. And just that, if you look away and then look back, you won't notice it so much as just if you watch that happen. But now look at, this is before and after that little adjustment. It just helps draw your eye. Obviously, your eye's going to go to the bird anyway because there's nothing really going on. But it makes him pop a little bit more. It separates him from the background. It creates a little bit more depth, a little bit more drama. I like it. We're rolling with it. All right, so let's just finish this off really quick. We're going to grab our spot removal tool here like I always do. Spend way too much time with the spot removal tool. And if you guys haven't seen this before, you do have your visual spot option here, and you can go ahead and click that. I think you can toggle it with the letter A. So if you hit A for whatever reason, it'll show the spots, and you can increase or decrease the strength of this. So in this case, we're just going to pull this down so it's only showing a few of the spots, and we're just going to click those really quick so that Lightroom does its magic and removes some of these that are unwanted. I'm going to leave a few bubbles around the bird. I think it's cool. You can tell that he's underwater, and you can tell that he's holding his breath. Let's go ahead and check that. Yeah, I think I'll leave those bubbles. And then there's a few spots, maybe something that was on the lens, or it could have just been right in front of the dome, that are a little darker that I see on here that are bothering my eyes. So that looks pretty good. What happened here? That's huge. I did my level 1 last year. I hit 106 the other day, so I think I'm ready for level 2. Absolutely. You're absolutely ready for level 2. And in fact, level 2, they really just go over a little bit more technique. Really technique focused. It's not so much about hitting depth as it is a little bit more advanced safety skills, a little bit more advanced technical skills. So what you knuckleheads doing here? Hey, oh no, we got a whole reunion. Troy Stewart has come over to the freediving world, as all the cool people do. So just saying, you'd be good at it. You like fish. You always ask me to send it to you. All right, so let's go ahead and see before and after on that. And I think for me, let's just put a bow on that, give it a good old number 5, export that later, and let's go ahead and go full screen on this. Click this. What you guys think about this? That's the after, and then let's see how I can go back. This is whoops, before, and then after. Yeah. What's your max? All right, this is not turning into a freediving podcast, or not podcast, live stream. Are you asking me what my max is? I hit 25 feet once, man. I dig it. Thanks, dude. All right, so let's go ahead and pull up the next photo that I want to edit, and that is this guy right here. This was submitted by, I already forgot his name. I'm so bad with names. Grant Ireland off of Instagram. He's Grant_Ireland on Instagram. Go check him out, guys. He's a spear fisherman, and he's got a lot of really cool fish photos. Mahi photos, tarpon. Wow. These are some cool shots, man. Avid fisherman. And he has a 32-foot yellowfin. So invite me out, dude. All right, so a very cool pic. Yeah, I love the 50-50 shots. I'm not sure where this was taken. It looks like it could be anywhere in the Caribbean because they're gorgeous coral reefs. It looks like there's a little bit of elevation here. It could just be the point of view here. So this was a JPEG photo, so we're not going to have as much information. The dimensions are a little bit smaller than a raw photo, and we also don't have all the metadata, so I can't tell you what settings or what camera he was using, but it's also going to limit what we can do to the photo. There's a lot more information in a raw photo, so it's easier to edit and enhance. Very cool pic. All right, so let's come down here. I'm just going to turn on remove chromatic aberration. If I do enable profile correction, it's not going to know what the profile is because this doesn't have the metadata. And since I don't know what camera he used, I can't go in here and manually select that. You should do a video on camera equipment for underwater. Okay, we can do that. We can talk about that. I don't know a ton about it. Like, I have my housing and my camera, but we can go over like different lenses to use underwater and settings and things like that. Sure. And maybe I'll get a special guest who's watching right now to come in and share their expertise, because it's definitely not, it's new to me, you know, underwater. I've been doing it now, I don't know, maybe 6-8 months. So it's all new. All right, so let's go ahead and adjust the white balance. We're going to bring this temperature up just a little bit. Since this is a 50-50 shot, it's kind of unique in that we're editing an underwater photo and an above water photo in one. And we will use some graduated filters to adjust the top and then adjust the bottom. Let's go ahead and pull the tint up as well. And we're going to pull the tint up quite a bit. And we can, again, counteract that with a little bit more of the temperature. That might be too much. I want to preserve the blue in the sky. I'm going to pull this back down a little bit. Let's see. Before and after. Kind of got rid of some of the blues down here that I want to preserve a little bit. So let's drag those highlights down. Bring a lot more back in the sky. Lift the shadows up, which is going to bring a lot more back in the reef. Lift the whites up, holding the Alt key. I don't want that cloud to be completely blown out. And then we're going to crash those blacks. Not too much. We'll get a little bit more of the blacks out of the tone curve in just now, before, after. Same thing in the tone curve. I'm actually going to pull this down a lot on the bottom because I want to see contrast between above water and below. And then we're going to lift the highlights up a little bit. Yeah, maybe not so much there. All right. So this is the part that gets a little tricky. When we're splitting this up in half, in two parts, actually let's go ahead and add a little dehaze on here. Increase the vibrance, drop the saturation. Let's not mess with the vibrance or saturation yet. Let's go ahead and graduated filter. And let's first start with the sky, because right now I think the sky is a little blue, almost kind of turning purplish up here. So I'm going to desat that just a bit, maybe like 5, and then maybe add a little bit warmth into the temperature. So now that sky doesn't look quite so, I don't know, fake. But we will add a little bit of dehaze, which actually might make it more purple. It's tough because it's a JPEG. It can't really pump it up too much. Let's go ahead and leave that. We're going to bring the exposure down just a hair, and then we'll lift the exposure down here. I looked at them. Whoa. Very cool. But you should do a video. I looked at them this weekend, Stuart. I have no idea which to buy. What's that? Underwater photo equipment or cameras in general? Because I can help you there. All right, another graduated filter on the bottom half here. And I'm actually going to make the feather not quite as soft because we're going to just drag this right up here to the base of the water. And if I hit this, you can see what's being affected. And we're just going to put it right there, uncheck that, and bring that exposure up. And you're going to bring a lot more detail out below, which I think that's the focus of this photo. And that's what you have to kind of ask yourself is, what are we looking at here? And I think this huge coral head is, in my opinion, the thing that's going to draw your eye in, but just the whole underwater scene in general. For Everest trip, what? That's a good question. Like, I don't know if you need a specific type of camera that can withstand those elements. I don't know. Look into it for you. But we brought the exposure up here in the bottom half. We're going to increase the contrast of hair again, bring the highlights down just a little bit so we have more detail in those, and we can lift the exposure even more. Lift up the shadows. There we go. And now I want to pull some of the aqua out of here, but I want to leave some also. It's kind of hard to explain. So I'm actually going to come in down here, hit done, and then we're going to add we're going to add another gradient adjustment. And this is just working on color. Leave that texture how it was. Actually, did this one mess up the texture? Yes, damn it. Why is it doing that? It's like automatically reducing the texture. Man, I'm glad I caught that. That would have been a big mistake. All right, back to this one. This one we're just going to be doing the color. So I'm going to pull the temperature down. Actually, let's start with tint. Because it's so shallow, you're not losing a ton of light. So I'm going to lift the tint just a little bit, and then I'm going to pull the temperature down until we get like that desired blue color. We don't want it to be too yellow. We don't want it to be too purple, but somewhere there in the middle. What's that before and after? Oh, these are all of the adjustments. How do I see just that one? Is that an option? I don't know if you can do that. I'll have to learn. Oh, I can always just come down here. Before, after. Okay, so not a huge difference, but we're getting somewhere. This was the original photo. A little darker under here, not as much detail, and then we lighten that up. All right, so let's go ahead now and get into our HSL sliders. Finally tuned in on time. Yeah, well, I made it later, so I don't know if you saw that announcement, but we are doing these streams on Thursday now at 8 p.m. because everybody was getting here late. So, all right, so let's go down here into our saturation, and we're going to try to pull some reds up in this. We'll pull the oranges up a little in this, as well as the yellows. Bring the aqua down. Maybe just leave that. And then down here in our luminance, there's a lot of aqua in here. So if we bring the aqua way down, you can see it's going to adjust a lot more than if we just did like the yellows. There's not a whole lot of red. You can see up here that there's not a whole lot of red. There is some red down in the shadows. In fact, the red's more so above water here. I just don't like this yellow color. So what I'm going to do is go over to hue, and instead of trying to figure it out here, I'm going to take this little selection here, click right on the color that I want to adjust, and now if I drag that down, I can change the hue of that, and I want to make it a little bit more red. So it's going to be like an orangish yellow. We're just going to pull that down, pull that down, pull that down, until we kind of get that desired color that I'm looking for, a little bit more fiery orangish red. All right, so this is without it, and now add it. A little bit better. This is the issue with a JPEG versus RAW. I feel like if this was RAW, there'd be a lot more information. I'd be able to clean that up even more. Maybe pull the greens up a little? No, that's not gonna help. All right, so let's go ahead and end that. Let's look at the before and the after. And again, this is the focus right here. I'm gonna do a gradient, a radial rather, filter. I don't know why that keeps happening. Slap that right around there, and now we're just gonna bring the exposure down around the outside. And I'm looking up here at the histogram when I'm doing this, okay? I'm looking at, I don't want this to be too underexposed, but at the same time, I want there to be contrast. That looks pretty good. So before, this was the original photo with the JPEG, after, and then we can just finish it up with a little, when in doubt, vignette it out. Not even like, that's probably good. Let's go full screen. See what, I would really like to edit this photo in RAW. You can just see some color pixelation up here. In fact, that needs to be done. Hang on, let's go back down to our detail. Here we go. Color noise reduction, crank that up, 30. Add some sharpening. What just happened? Yeah, see, JPEG, if I sharpen it, it gets like, you can see these like little blocks. It gets all blocky. I'm just gonna bring it up maybe about 30, and then we're gonna mask off as much as we can. How's that? That looks okay. Before and after. It gives a lot more detail in the coral, which is what I was kind of going for. So let's go ahead and zoom that out. What version of Lightroom are you using? I'm using Lightroom Classic. That's what everybody uses. It's the one that if we, hang on, how do I do this? If I pulled up your Adobe Creative Cloud and went into your apps, you have this Lightroom, right? You want to use this one. It's better, believe me. All right, so I'm happy with that. Good, and what was the photo? Is AJ still in here? Before I go digging for this. He sent me a photo last week, and I'm probably gonna, here we go, Fear My Spear. You emailed it to me, I think. Give me 1 second, guys, bear with. If I can get it really quick, I'll go ahead and do it. It might have to wait till next week, though. I'm just pulling up my email. Oh, no, I want to edit this. All right, let's save this really quick. Download. Come up here. All right, we're going to do this right now. Import photos and videos, and I just saved it to my downloads, so I'm going to have to click on a bunch of folders. Not CC. All right, here we go. Downloads. Here it is. Uncheck all those, pick that, import. All right, same thing. We're going to be working with a JPEG photo. Oh, no. Oh, this is RAW. Looks like he's sat on a crop sensor camera. Oh, no, this is on a GoPro Hero 6. Can you do RAW on GoPro? Maybe you can. All right, let's go ahead and import that. Come up here to develop. All right, so I obviously enjoy spearfishing, but this is a photo that I see on Instagram all the time, and just with like a little bit of understanding, a little bit of practice and know-how, this photo can look way better. People get these photos with like their GoPro as a great example, or like a cell phone, or a cheaper underwater camera option, And they just post it like this. And when you're underwater, you're going to lose a lot of that light, and you're going to get these different hues and tinges, and it's just kind of look flat. There's a lot of green in this photo. There's some haze in this photo. But it's a great fish. This was a nice Cubera snapper, except you shot it right in the middle. Happens to the best of us. But let's go ahead and work on this. So since it's a GoPro, I think if I enable profile correction, it's going to take out some of that lens distortion, remove chromatic aberration. It's not going to have a huge effect on this photo. Let's get rid of this. Pull this back up. Is AJ still in here? I'm going to tell him that I'm editing his photo. I'm editing your photo. Get in here. All right. So this is going to be a pretty quick edit, and this is what I meant by just with a little bit of understanding, you could take a photo that is like, hey, this is my fish. I'm proud of this fish, but you can make it look so much better with a few adjustments. In fact, we're going to do this whole edit with like, let's call it 10 adjustments. Okay, 10 clicks, if you will. So first one's going to be tint. Since this is green, as in the tint is green, we're going to pull magenta up into this. All right, we're going to pull it up quite a bit. That's one click. All right, temperature. I'm going to lift that up. I'm going to lift it up a little bit more and then add a little bit more of this magenta. No, we can't lift that up just because get some of that blue. There we go. All right, so that's 2 clicks. Before, after. Pull that down a little bit more. Hang on one second. Dante, we know that edit, right? There it is. That's the shot. There it is. All right, so we just did the white balance in theoretically 2 clicks, even though I had to do it a bunch of times. You're here. All right. So first things first, white balance on this photo. That adjustment alone, especially with the GoPro, you're shooting, it looks like you're shooting in a flat color profile. I don't know if this is GoPro color or not. What setting, were you using flat or using GoPro? And then, nice, nice. Are you saying nice about the fish or the photo? This is where Dante shoots fish, right here. All right. So just those first 2 clicks, the adjust balance, adjusting the tint and temperature, you can do that like on your cell phone, just with like a basic app like Snapseed. Lightroom does have a cell phone app as well, and I use it all the time. In fact, you can do just about everything that you can do on the computer. It's just on a smaller screen. It can be a little bit more difficult, and you can't see the detail as much. GoPro color settings. I usually leave it on GoPro color settings when I'm shooting video. It does a pretty good job, so not a bad start. All right, so the exposure of this looks okay, but we're going to do, the next clicks are going to be highlights and shadows. So we're going to bring the highlights down to bring some detail. We're going to lift the shadows up so it brings you up a little bit, your face and your wetsuit there, which is cool. All right, and now we're going to lift the whites up and then the blacks down, adding contrast, okay? So we'll call that 4 clicks. This is before, that's after. All right. I would use the tone curve here, but I don't want to use too many clicks. And we're going to do this in like 20 clicks because I want this photo to look good, because a viewer sent it to me. But theoretically, you don't have to use all the presence sliders. But what I want to do is add a little bit of texture in here, increase the clarity just a smidge, but dehaze this. And that's going to bring some of the blues out in the water. Go negative 18, or sorry, positive 18 on that. Vibrance can come up, and we're going to leave that right there. Come down here into the tone curve. Bring the shadows down. Now we're getting depth. We're getting separation now from the subject to the background. Adding that contrast, as it always does, added saturation. So let's pull that saturation down so it doesn't look too overcooked. The whole photo is a little dark right now, so let's just bring the exposure up about there. Before and after. All right. And now let's come up here into our blues, because we want these blues to be a little darker. I think I do. If we made those blues darker and then brightened up AJ's face here, then it'll add, again, separation, creating depth. So the water's a little bit darker behind him now, maybe not quite that dark. And then we'll take a radial filter here, bring it around the face, in the face. We're gonna flip it so it's just editing his face, because we're gonna add a couple radial filters here. This one, the face filter. We're going to brighten you up a little bit, brother. We can do it with exposure. We can also bring it by bringing the shadows up. I think that makes it look a little bit more natural, bringing the shadows up. If I just brought the exposure up, it's going to affect everything. But bringing the shadows up, it looks a little bit more natural. We can bring the exposure just a touch. But like that adjustment alone brought so much more attention to your face. And I'm going to desaturate you a little so you don't have so much teal in your face, and add a little bit of warmth to give you more skin tone, just a little bit, like 5. I can even bring the tint up a little bit too. There we go. So now it actually looks more like a skin tone. Granted, it's an underwater skin tone, but this is before, after, and then just this radial filter. Before, after, huge difference there. Let's grab another radial filter around the fish here. Whoa, that's zoom. Radial filter. I think we're still, we're at like 8 clicks right now. So we're doing good. And we're going to bring this around this. What did I just do? This guy. Rotate it so it's around the snapper. Adjust it so that we're working just within that circle. Same thing. Going to lift the shadows. Bring up the whites. Bring the blacks down, add contrast. Bring the exposure up just a smidge. And again, doesn't have to be a lot, but it's enough. These are both the radial filters, filtering them on and off. And it's just creating separation from the background, especially when we put a vignette on this now. A vignette is just darkening the perimeter of the photo. Down here. We can actually bring that down quite a bit in this case. I usually don't like to do it a ton. If we're going to do it a ton, we're going to feather that out. Maybe like -15 total. Bring the overall exposure up just a hair so that it agrees with the histogram in the top. Before, after. It needs some sharpness because it is a GoPro photo. And was this taken, this wasn't taken from a video, right? This was like an actual photo. It has to be because of the resolution. So let's lift that sharpening up, but we're going to mask it off like I always do, so we're not affecting the water. See how up here in the top, like if I was just to add the sharpening and not mask it, it's going to sharpen everything. It's going to sharpen the water in these little tiny particles, where by using the mask and dragging that over, now it's only affecting the areas when I hit the Alt key that are white, right? Black conceals, white reveals. Still shot, yeah, had to be. It was a dumb question. So that looks a lot better. And in fact, if we bring up the noise reduction here a little bit, there we go. That looks really cool. Overall, if we get into the HSL sliders, I think under saturation, I might bring the aquas down a little bit and the greens down just a little bit. And now this is our before. Right, this is a photo that everybody takes underwater. That's after. I don't know. I guess I can't show the before photo in full screen. Pretty good lighting for 68 feet. This photo was taken at 68 feet? What are you doing down there? I'm taking a photo. Well, it worked out, man. After. Let's see if we can get this thing to move here so we can get this out of the way. Get my mug out of the way. There you go. So this is the before shot out of the GoPro right here. Apparently at 68 feet. And then after. Way more contrast, more detail, separation between the subject and the background. Really cool photo, man. I really like it, and now this is something that I would be happy with posting on my timeline. Swimming down with the fish was awkward. Yeah, you're like, just take me to the bottom, bro. Take me to the bottom. All right, let's bring my mug back. So, hey, thanks for sending that photo in. I'm glad that, you know, we're using all different types of cameras, that people are submitting photos from their cell phone. The photo I did last week was, oh great. The photo I did last week was with a Sony a7 III, very similar to the camera that I use. In fact, it's the same camera that I use. And then even from GoPro. So thank you guys for sending those photos in, because it's cool to see a wide array. And I like editing photos from different devices, if that works. So I'm gonna go ahead and slap 5 stars on that. And then AJ, I'll send this to you as soon as we end the stream, okay? So you can have that. And do we need to do any cropping here? I don't. If anything, I would pull in the left side just a bit, and then pull that up. There we go. I like that better. Cool, man. Cool, cool, cool. All right, so let's go. I think we have time for some more. All right, this photo, in honor of, you know, not in honor of the Bahamas, but, you know, obviously it's terrible what's going on there, but the Bahamas has a piece of my heart. I love the Bahamas. We go there any opportunity we can to vacation and just get away, or to go diving and spend time in the water with the different creatures. Do you like the A7S? I've never used it, but I've heard great things about the A7S. I know that is it the S that they're coming out with the S for? Dante, are they coming out with the Sony A7S IV, or is it the A7R4? I'm confused. Sony A7S. No, the A7S III. So it would be the A7R4. Yeah, Sony's coming out with the A7R4. That'll probably be, if I can manage, that'll be my next camera, I think. If I can't, I'll get the A7R III. So I have never used the A7S, so I can't really answer that question, but I've seen, you know, incredible photos. Honestly, the camera itself, it doesn't make nearly as big of a difference as the photographer. And getting the shot and having the eye and being able to bring it into a program like this and enhance it and make it look different, come to life, and improve. It does help having a nice camera that has, you know, high definition range and all of these megapixels and autofocusing. That helps, right? But it doesn't nearly make as big of a difference as the photographer, the composition, and so forth. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But this photo, for some reason, it has just sat in here, and I've never edited it, but edited it. I can't ever say that, but I wanted to, and we're gonna go ahead and do that here. There's a lot of pixels in it. I think that's part of the reason. Pixels. There's a lot of particles in it. I think that's one reason that I haven't yet done it, because I know it's going to take some work, and we're not going to do all the particles tonight. I will do those on my own. But the photo doesn't need a lot, and that's when I know I had the right settings, I had the right angle, when it doesn't need a lot of post-production, right? So what we're going to do first and foremost, like always, enable that lens profile correction, remove chromatic aberrations. I say this over and over, but it just definitely makes a difference. You can see that some of that vignette goes away, and that lens distortion. Step 2, cropping. And I'm going to crop this because this is going on Instagram. So we're going to do the Instagram 4x5 portrait crop. And I really like the angle. I don't think rotating it, that won't work. That I'm not a fan of. We're going to leave the rotation just how it is. But we are going to crop it in just a little bit. More to the left. Right now I'm kind of peeking up here just to get an idea exactly where that's centered. And that's looking pretty good. All right. I'm getting excited. So for the white balance, it doesn't really need a lot. Like anything that I add is going to be, let's add a little. See, if I add magenta too much, it's going to get into the sun. So I'm just going to add like a hair. I don't like that. Yeah, you know what? I might just add a little, because there's a little green tinge. So I'm going to add like 10 on the magenta, and then we're going to use saturation to do the rest of it. I'm not going to mess with the white balance on this because it's good out of camera. It looks good, especially because I'm staring right up into the light, and it's more of a silhouette shot, really. So let's go ahead and bring this exposure down a little bit. We're clipping off at the top. Obviously, we have a sun directly in our eyes, so it's going to be a little bright. But then we're going to lift the shadows up to reveal the belly of that beast. Good. Bring the highlights down just a little bit. But then we're going to counteract that. White's up, black's down. No. No. All right, before, after, very subtle changes with these photos. You know, it's almost like the more you do to it, the worse it starts to look. So I'm trying not to do too much. Oh. See, I almost always lift the shadows in the photos that I take because you're trying to bring out detail, right, in the shadow. But in this case, it's a silhouette photo, which I've not really done, so I'm not an expert on this. But I'm thinking by bringing the shadows darker and making that separation that way, now the shadows are darker and the light behind it, there adds more contrast. I think that looks better. That looks way better than that. So this is before, after. In fact, we can even like get a little dramatic here and bring the darkness of the exposure down a little bit and then desaturate this. I'm liking that. Ooh. What do you guys think about that? I think the shadows might be a little too dark. Or maybe just the exposure is a little too dark. All right. I'm liking what I'm seeing. Leave the vibrance. I'm not even going to mess with the tone curve because I think I like the contrast right now. And the colors and everything, to me, I don't want to mess with it. Don't want to mess with it. Maybe the aqua saturation can come down just a bit. We don't really need to sharpen it because there's not a ton of detail with the exception of the water, right? But I am going to increase the noise reduction just a little bit. That's fine. And the rest of this we're going to do a spot removal tool and some radial filters. I'm liking what I'm seeing. All right, so let's get into the fun of the spot removal tool. And the more that I look at it, the more I don't think we need to spend a ton of time with it. But I'm going to go up here, click the spot removal tool. First one I see is this lighter spot right in his belly. Get rid of that. That was just like some glare on the lens, perhaps. And let's zoom in here. Let's go like 1 to 2. And let's just get rid of some of these distractions. These happy little distractions. We're just going to poof, and they're gone. Just click and poof. Yeah. My Bob Ross, inner Bob Ross. But although they're very small, little tiny specks that seem insignificant, and it does take a lot of time to go through here and click on each and every one, it definitely adds up to make a big impact on the photo, on the overall photo. So a bunch of small changes, that's really what editing is making subtle changes so that, you know, at a glance, a photographer or even a non-photographer can look at it and say, Oh, this is what he did to it, or this is what he didn't do to it. So. Stuart Holmes mentioned me in my story. In his story. Thanks, brother. Thanks, man. I hope it's good. I'm just going to click a few more of these. And then we'll zoom out to get a bigger picture. Oh, there's a bunch over here that need to go. This is normally like very therapeutic for me, doing this. But when I know people are just sitting there waiting for me to get done, it's like the exact opposite effect. I get like anxiety doing this on stream. I'm just trying to go like fast, 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 fast. I'm enjoying it. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'm pumped to see how your course goes. If you ever have any questions, you know, give me a shout. The main thing that I would stress to somebody who is taking a course for the very first time, getting into freediving, is to, you know how like in every other sport, it's like, you know, no pain, no gain, or like, you know, you got to push outside your comfort zone, and, you know, it's not that. Okay, if anything, I would say work well within your comfort zone when you're going deeper and deeper. Focus first on your technical skills, like equalizing, like your entry, your streamlining, your head position, and then don't ever worry about depth. I was going to say worry about depth second, but don't ever worry about depth. That will come as a byproduct. When you get so fixated on the numbers that you're hitting, that's when it stops becoming fun. It adds more stress, and then it's just not as good of a time, man. Not as good of a time. All right, I think I got all the ones that I want to get here. Let's go ahead and zoom that back out. One more up here. All right. I honestly don't think it needs a whole lot more. Like, I'm sitting here thinking of things I could do to it, but I think the more I change, the worse it's going to get. We can add some vignette on that. And here's the before photo. And you can see all the little dots now, right? You can see all the little specks, and boom, they're gone. That's a little dark. Let's bring the exposure up. Before, after. Before, after. Yeah. Yeah, for your course, I know this is getting into freediving, but most of the people that follow me, at least on social media, are into freediving, or they're interested in freediving. You have all the time in the course, like, you know, if they're taking you down a level 1 FII, I think they take you to 66 feet. Don't like just bomb down to it. The biggest mistake that a first-time freediver makes is they like sprint down. And the more that you can be slow and methodical and relaxed, and it's going to be way easier, especially for equalization. If you're going down really fast and that pressure changing really fast, it's just harder to equalize. All right, I think I'm good with that. The only thing that I might do is desaturate the shark a little bit. And it would kind of be difficult to do with a radial filter. I could sit here and like brush it in, but I think the fastest way for me at least is going to go up here into Photoshop. So I'm going to hit edit in Adobe Photoshop, which is just a companion app for Lightroom. And there's all different, like the thumbnail that I made for this video, that was all in here in Photoshop. And what I'm going to do is hit Control J to duplicate this layer so that I have my foundation here on the right, and then one above it is the working layer, the one that we're working on. And I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to select the subject, which is the shark. And what I'm going to use to get super exact with this is the pen tool. And the pen tool takes a little while to get a hang of, but once you got it, it's pretty easy. You can just drag that out, make a nice outline around our shark here, and this is just going to take a second. Same thing, this is something that I enjoy doing off of stream, But because I know it's like sort of mundane and there's not a whole lot to talk about while I do it, it gets a little stressful. Whatever, I'm having a good time. I apologize for the background music. I got in trouble the very first stream that I did. I did not realize that copywritten music in a live stream is a no-no. I think I knew that deep down, and I don't know. It was an oversight on my end. So this is a non-copywritten playlist courtesy of Spotify. All right. Troy, are you still in here? When are you going to Everest, dude? That's big deal stuff. Did he answer that question already? I know I asked it before, I think. I would love to go to Mount Everest. I don't know that I would. It's expensive, isn't it? If you're going to summit. I think like base camp's a little more reasonable. Summiting, I know, is financially taxing because you have to have like all the gear, and then you have to get the permits, and then you have to like hire the guides or whatever they call them, like the Sherpas. I believe. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I believe it's in the. It's not cheap. Troy's a baller though. Hey, thanks for the subscription, Yasamani. I appreciate that. Oh, hey, like my little thing worked. That little overlay. Did you guys catch that? This is the first time that's happened live on stream. Thank you for the subscription. It helps out the channel a lot. My goal is to get to, my short-term goal is to get to 100 subscriptions, so subscribers. So if you guys are enjoying what you're seeing, make sure that you are sharing this with your friends or people that are interested in photography, whether that's underwater, above water, Instagram, blogger, fashion, I don't care. Send them in. It's all art. It's all a learning experience. Almost there. We're almost there. Oh, what happened? Here we go. And then I'm just going to hit selection here, and this little thing popped up on the other screen. I'm going to hit OK. We're going to select and mask this off. Let's smooth that out just a little bit. Shift the edge just a little bit. And then hit OK. So now we have our selection here. And I'm going to hit copy, Control C, and then paste it, Control V. So now we have just the shark. And I'm going to come up here to filters, camera raw filter, and I'm going to adjust the saturation. Let's see how that looks. Did the saturation happen? Okay. Hang on, let me go back really quick. And I want to duplicate this layer so I have a reference. Okay, so now we'll edit this layer and do that same thing. Camera raw filter. Bring that saturation down. Okay. And now this is before, after. Before, after. I think that looks really good. I like it. I'm happy. And that's what matters. I'm going to hit save on this and it'll take us right back. Hey, look at that. There's the thumbnail. Do all this stuff in Photoshop. Come back into Lightroom, and now that edit has been done. And here's our before photo. If we just click on over here and then reset this, this was the photo out of camera, and then here is the edit. So not a huge difference, and I like that. But I'm really happy with this photo. That's going on the Instagram first thing tomorrow morning. All right, it's 9 o'clock, just after 9, trying to keep this show to an hour. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this time as much as I did. Thank you for the subscription, Yasamani. I appreciate that. And Troy, thanks for stopping in and have fun on your trip to Everest. Hit me up. Let me know when that's happening. Stuart, good luck this weekend. And thank you for sharing this on your Instagram story. Everybody who stopped by, appreciate it. Everyone who submitted the photos, thank you. If you guys have photos that you'd like to see me edit live on stream, you can email those to tommyoverboard@gmail.com. And I still don't have a way to close the show. So, any suggestions?